World, welcome to Americana. I'm your host, Willie Montague. Well, tonight, the curtains come down, the truth they hide, the deals, the power plays, the lives being shaped without your say. We're exposing it all. It's going to be fast, it's going to be sharp, and it is most definitely going to be unfiltered. I do not want you to go anywhere. Stay tuned. This is Americana. All right, you guys, it's going to be a definitely hefty type of conversation. We have some hot topics with you, but these are going to be some that are probably going to hit home. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination that just happened today. Charlotte, the train stabbing. If those that haven't seen this is a lot going on out there. And then also we're going to be talking about the emergency executive order that was opposed in Washington, D.C., and how that expired as of today. A lot to cover here on Americana. We have our very special guest with us today, David Dambroso, someone who does not mind confrontation at all. Lots coming up, so you want to stay tuned. But before we do that, let's get into Willie's take. All right, you know, guys, this is the part where I get to have a little rant. You ever notice how America is becoming that friend who tells you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear? We've got a generation raised on safe spaces, feel-good mantras, everyone gets a trophy, no one gets offended, but life doesn't give trophies. It gives hard knocks, it doesn't hand out participation ribbons, it demands grit, resolve, confrontation. We're past the era where politeness wins election or fixes economies. We need backbone. We definitely don't need bed sheets. Leaders who stare down swamp, not negotiate with smiling phrases on cable TV. We need to reclaim the fight, outwork it, outfight it, own it. That's real Americana. Refusing to be shaken, refusing to apologize, being unfiltered, unapologetic, unafraid, enough with whispering. It's time we came roaring back. So as I said, we have a very special guest with us, David Dambroso. And speaking about roaring back, this is something that many know that Charlie Kirk had no problem doing. If you have not heard the news, Charlie Kirk was at Utah University today, and he was not just a target of this, but a continued target. But today, it ended his life, leaving behind his wife and 2 kids. This is devastating. And with us today, welcome David Dambroso to Americana.
It's a really solemn day, very, very heavy. Feel sick to my stomach about Charlie Kirk's assassination, but his voice was so powerful that the left couldn't compete with it, and so they had to silence him. It's just unacceptable, the level of political violence in this country, and it really mostly all goes one direction. The vast majority of these mass shooters are leftists or violent criminals. The mass majority of them, they're leftists, and it goes one direction. And we've treated the left as moral and intellectual equals, but they are not in this country. And so conservatives, it's incumbent upon us to go after them legally, ethically, morally, and refrain from the violence they so freely engage in.
So let me ask it this way. I'm looking at some of the comments and reading it, and some believe that this was brought upon him because of all of the conversations that he has, and often definitely being against DEI, being against transgenderism, and just seeing this, and they're like, this was finally the time that has come. And while we definitely do not, condone such behavior, what would you say to that? Because when we're looking at it right now, we definitely are for our Second Amendment. I would stand with that. literally to the day that I'm gone. But I want to say this, like, where do we draw the line with things like this? What do we need to do? How can we rise up, as I mentioned in the beginning, where we need to roar back? Because everyone wants, to be recognized, clicks and likes and whatnot. But seeing this happen today, and I saw a comment that said there's 1 million more Charlie Kirks that after today are rising up. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it wasn't just Charlie's opinions that had him targeted for assassination. It was how effective he was. Notice you don't have very many talking heads killed in media. This guy was a force to be reckoned with, and he couldn't be competed with electorally. The numbers of voters he got registered, that he took the golden goose away from the left, the youth vote. He was converting youth voters to the Republican Party at an incredible clip. And so this is absolutely why he was targeted. But it wasn't just his speech, but obviously we condemn this in the strongest sense. Any decent person would. There have been people on the left on Twitter praising his death. It's insane. The New York Times is already slandering the man, Charlie Kirk, as a liar and saying that he was removed from social media, so that's evidence he was lying. When people were removed for telling the truth on social media, telling the truth about COVID, simply reposting CDC articles.
So, David, I want you to stay here. You guys, we're going to come back talking about Charlie Kirk because we want to handle this. So we have to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We're going to continue to talk about definitely a breaking news story, what's happening with Charlie Kirk, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about this stabbing that happened too. It's all tied together. What are we going to do? Don't go anywhere. You're watching Americana. All right, you guys, welcome back. We took a quick commercial break, but we still have with us David Dambroso, and we're diving into this whole conversation about this assassination of Charlie Kirk, who is the founder of Turning Point. And I, for one, was actually the faith leader, the faith chair for local Orange County, Florida, which is a department of Turning Point. So I got to work directly with some of the Turning Point individuals. Never got to meet Charlie Kirk, but I would say that particular division really worked on making sure that we were teaching within the church about the truth about the United States. And here we have today the founder of such an organization that worked alongside organizations like Blexit, which is with Candace Owens, to be able to get this truth in there. So David, as we're talking about this, and hopefully we'll be able to also dive into the stabbing, because a lot of the media is bypassing that. But we also want to talk about this, why is it that when truth is spoken that people are targeted? There's a scripture that says, have I now become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And I, for one, I'm all about how we deliver a message. I know some people don't like how I may deliver a message or how you deliver a message, but it never should warrant for someone to be assassinating cold blood, leaving an entire family behind, not grown kids.
Any kind of violence.
Yeah. Grown, not grown kids. We're talking about, little kids, 31 years old, and, also a wife. So what will we do? I know there was a comment made that President Trump is saying there's some things he's about to do. I think they're assuming that he's going to crack down on something. I don't think it's going to be anything to deal with him cracking down with guns, but I do think it's time to put some of these wing nutcases in their places that they need to be. So what do you think about that? Like, why is it that truth is what is being targeted and not the lies that we've seen in countless?
I think it was George Orwell that said telling the truth is a revolutionary act in a dystopian society, to paraphrase. And it's becoming more and more like that. Remember, in these past 4 years before Trump, you couldn't tell the truth on social media. You couldn't post things that were literally true about COVID from the CDC's own website because they considered it dangerous information. It didn't fit into the narrative, or it would lead to vaccine hesitancy. But we don't have a gun problem in the United States. I think President Trump understands that. We have a problem with leftism in this country. And if you take out all of the blue cities that have been blue, from the dog catcher all the way up to the mayor and the congressional representative for the past 60 years, America is safer than any European nation. If you take that out of our violent crime stats, and most of these violent criminals, the murderers, the violent criminals, they're repeat offenders, and they're known to the police. And it is the policy of the left to be lenient on these criminal offenders. It's punishing the innocent in society. It's not merciful. And to not punish these people and remove them from society is causing an epidemic of violence and crime in this country.
And we're going to actually get into that, speaking of, not doing what they need to do as far as getting these offenders off the street. But do you think in this particular case with Charlie Kirk that the university failed him and the local law enforcement? They know that he's a target. They know that he's one that doesn't mince words. And here he is in this open air. Should there have been some security checks? Should there have been people making sure that he was safe? Why was it so easy for a person to be able to just get 200 yards away and shoot him and kill him? Should we be
famously,
holding this
Matthew Crooks got half of that distance away from President Trump and successfully shot him in the head, penetrated his ear. We still don't know really anything about Matthew Crooks, and he shot Donald Trump in the head July 2024. Just a little while after that, this Ukrainian soldier of fortune guy knew where Trump was going to be on his golf course and was sitting in wait with a Kalashnikov rifle where Trump was going to be. Luckily, he was found before he could take a shot at the president. But these events can be hard.
It is. But do you think that they could have, having those events, speaking those was in 2024, knowing what's happening in the current climate,
yes,
do you think they could have been more aware and protective?
If you're any kind of high-profile conservative, as a politician or otherwise, you have to check the rooftops. You personally, your security detail, with a rifle, 200 yards is a point-blank shot. Someone can be trained in less than a day to make that shot that killed Charlie Kirk at 300 or 400 yards, 3 or 4 football fields within one day. It's not a hard shot to make. Children make these shots all the time, even hunting deer. It's a non-trivial thing, and now security is going to have to be radically rethought at these events. I was just at an event with Director of National Security, Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what event it was, but there was no security. There were no metal detectors. Anyone could be right next to her. Her security was lagging 20 feet behind her. And I'm not happy that Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and the Vice President, Hegseth, were out where Code Pink was harassing them. These political activists were harassing them, knew where they were going to be. And I think that's a security lapse. So, yes, security is going to have to be completely rethought in conservative circles.
Now, real fast, because this is all tying together in probably about, next 45 seconds or so. But this whole thing with Ukraine, we saw what has happened with the young lady that was basically fleeing Ukraine to get to safety in the United States, was in Charlotte on a commuter train. Here's a guy with 14 prior arrests. Did the Democrats fail this? Because they're always the one talking about, cashless bail and prison reform, and here they are, and this girl is dead. She was stabbed to death. And what bothers me is all the men that was around that didn't even take the time to even stand up to knock the guy over the head. So real fast, before we go to commercial break, what do you say about this? Because here we are, all this stuff is happening, but often it's like it's the radical left that refuses to talk about it, but then the Republicans point the finger to the radical left without doing anything. So what do you think about that? We got about
Finally, we've done something. You're right, generally, but we've identified the name of this judge who doesn't even have a law degree, and we're asking for her removal from the United States Congress via the United States Congress and other means to ask for her removal. So that's very positive. But yes, it's this catch and release. Remember, during COVID, they were releasing people for second-degree murder without incarcerating them, without holding them in jail for their trial because of COVID in Chicago. But this is not just a COVID situation. The left is super soft on crime, and they've created this crime pandemic.
Pause. We're going to come back because we're going to be the same. We're getting ready to go to another quick commercial break. We still got David with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about this executive order that expired today that was bringing D.C. some order. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We got David with us, and you are watching Americana. All right, you guys, welcome back. We still have with us David Dambroso, and we're getting ready to dive into this. As of today, September 10th, 2025, President Trump's emergency order giving federal oversight over D.C.'s police force has expired. Now, David, this is why I want to pull into this, because we're really getting into law and all those things today. You know, is this President Trump being weak? Is he softening up because he's not going at and said, let's keep him there? Or what do you think is happening? Do you think Congress should renew this executive order?
They have to look at the situation on the ground and the data, and I'm not privy to that data, but I know that Donald Trump is a very effective leader, and he's accustomed to getting a lot done in a short amount of time. For instance, he was able to finish the Iranian campaign with our bombers in 12 days, something that people said couldn't be done, and he did so without engaging in World War III or expanding the conflict between Israel and Iran. So it's incredible. So perhaps one thing I know, he picked up hundreds and hundreds of criminals that were just roaming the streets that had warrants out for the arrest that apparently weren't being picked up in D.C. So maybe he's already accomplished his mission, but definitely the law and order crisis does call for solutions that are outside of the box, and many would even call extreme. So long as they're constitutional, so long as they're conservative, I say go for it.
Now, my thing is, I know that with Republicans often, we're good at putting things out there, and it's short term, it's catchy, it's getting it, but then it's like it's just like the news. It's something is hyped right now for a day or two or a week, and then we're over it. You know, do you feel like this is something that once again we're like just doing things just to stay relevant? Because I don't think this gets rid of crime. We have multiple states that need this type of oversight, and yet it still is like, okay, we're gonna let this expire, go on, now we're on to something else. And it's like, when do we actually bring a long-term plan to law and order, just not quick expiration date executive orders?
Well, the long-term plan is a little bit of what's been going on with going after these judges that are soft on crime. Remember, the Supreme Court Justice Jackson, her average penalty for child rapists was something like a 2-year sentence. Well, we need to go after these judges and have them impeached. We need to go after them legally, ethically, morally, and play hardball like the left does. The left is impeaching Donald Trump like every 6 months or something. They try to get everyone canceled who even disagrees with them on an opinion issue. So we should take a page out of their playbook so long as it's legal, and it is legal to ask to petition for the removal of officials, and we should remove these judges. So that is the long-term plan, and I'm happy to see that's what's happening to the judge that let this monster out that murdered this poor Ukrainian girl on the subway.
You know, we need accountability. So do you think there's going to be a continuation of accountability, or are we just going to continue to see where it's like DC, you think this crime is going to amp back up? Should Republicans encourage more local autonomy, or are they just like, okay, let's have oversight? Because this is what I'm having a fear of. When we start allowing for federal to oversee state, and then state to oversee local, where does that piece actually end? Within 40 seconds, can you give that feedback?
Yeah,
is this crossing over?
Slope, and we trust Trump because of what a great job he's done and the respect he's earned. But would we trust the next president to have federal oversight of policing and cities? Absolutely not. So it is a short-term solution, which, to Trump's credit, maybe this is exactly what he did in D.C. short-term. But the answer long-term is going after these soft-on-crime judges and prosecutors and replacing them. George Soros famously has installed dozens and dozens of DAs around the country, so we have to remove them.
Well, I thank you, David, for being with us. And we talked about some heavy topics today, but David, thank you for being able to be with us. All right, you guys, that's a wrap for today's Americana. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, only on AFRO TV. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay Americana. And pray for Charlie Kirk's family. God bless you.